What's up guys and welcome to Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that is all about Xbox. I'm Ray and I'm coming at you with another video to help keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of Xbox. We'll dive into Phil Spencer's juicy interview that he did after his appearance on the official Xbox podcast, whether or not breakout hit Helldivers 2 is coming over to Xbox, and then I'll wrap up the vid talking about the coolest Xbox that you will never get to own. And remember, if you want to stay Xbox Ready, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring that little bell to be notified whenever I post a video. Let's discuss. So the past week and a half has been filled with anxiety and worried over the Xbox brand, following rumors that they were going to take their exclusives and ship them out onto other platforms like Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 5. Suddenly, fans were very worried about, oh, what if Starfield gets shipped over? What if Indiana Jones gets shipped over and people stop buying Xboxes? Oh my gosh, this world without Xbox. That all culminated in a special episode of the Xbox official podcast where Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, and Matt Booty all showed up to set the record straight. In many ways, as a YouTuber who covers Xbox stuff, it felt like the lead up to the Activision Blizzard acquisition. It was a lot of guessing, a lot of rumors, a lot of half-truths, but it felt weird not talking about it. But on the other side, I was kind of getting tired talking about it. I thought they did a pretty good job of addressing the multi-platform rumors, setting fan expectations, while also giving us something to look forward to, with Diablo 4 coming to Game Pass, as well as other Activision Blizzard titles, and teasing some new hardware that they're going to reveal later this year. While all eyes were on the Xbox official podcast episode that went up on Thursday, what I'm finding to be way more intriguing is this interview with Tom Warren and Phil Spencer that they did right after. And that's no disrespect to the crew at the official Xbox podcast. I thought Tina Amini did a great job moderating the discussion. Sure, there were elements of it that were obviously rehearsed, and there was nothing too crazy being thrown at the Xbox leadership that was there. But despite that, I feel like Tina did a really good job. When Phil Spencer was like, yeah, we're bringing over 4 games to other platforms. We won't say what, but we're bringing over 4 games. Tina was like, okay, yeah, 4 games. Are any of them named Starfield or Indiana Jones? A fair, direct question that was on all of our minds. But Tom Warren, as someone who doesn't work for Xbox, was able to take it a little bit further. He was like, okay, Starfield, Indiana Jones, not being shipped over to PlayStation 5, but since you're shipping over these other 4 games, can we expect sometime in the future that we're gonna see Starfield and Indiana Jones on PS5 or other consoles? To which Phil Spencer said, we're gonna cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll see. In the end, we learned that Xbox is just as multi-platform as they have been in the lead up to this. And honestly, they seem to be a step ahead of other industry counterparts who are also considering shipping their games to other platforms when they usually just keep them on their own. Again, this is a really great interview. I highly recommend that you check it out for yourself. Literally just Google Tom Warren, Phil Spencer interview, The Verge interview, whatever, and it'll pop right up. Here's what stuck out to me, my personal highlights of this interview, and why I think you should know about them. One of the biggest things to come out of this Phil Spencer and company interview on the Xbox official podcast was the reiteration that they're going to still make Xbox consoles. And not only are they going to keep making consoles, but they're also going to reveal the next generation of hardware sometime this holiday season. But the question remains, what are these Xbox consoles going to look like, really? Phil Spencer seems pretty excited about what they've cooked up so far, saying that he's proud of the hardware development team and that he feels like these next generation of Xbox consoles really unleashes their creative capability. Now, word on the street is that the next generation Xbox hardware is going to come in 2 SKUs, much like what we saw this generation and last. And after Phil's appearance on the podcast and in this interview, his comments are leading me to believe that those rumors are true. During the podcast, they even went so far as to say that these next Xboxes that we're going to see represent the largest technological leap in console generation history. So if we get 2 new Xbox consoles next gen, one might be a traditional high-end, powerful console, much like the Series X, and maybe a handheld. Tom Warren was able to press Phil a little bit more on this. He said, hey man, I see you on Twitter liking a bunch of tweets about Xbox handhelds. What's up with that? And basically what it boils down to is that Phil Spencer is a big fan of handheld gaming. He said, obviously, we're kind of learning from what Nintendo has done over the years with Switch. They've been fantastic with that. So when I look at the Steam Deck and the ROG and my Legion Go, I'm a big fan of that space. Now this signals to me all this talk about a new Xbox that's going to have this crazy technological leap along with possibly an Xbox handheld. This is signaling to me that the digital Series X is dead, it's discarded, it's never gonna see the market. I mean, there's a possibility that they might announce it in the summer. Tom Warren has said in a separate report that they're at least gonna release a new controller that we saw from those FTC leaks. But it's just a lot to ask from people to, buy a digital Series X that's not really like an upgrade over currently what we have, and then a couple of months later reveal these awesome new Xbox consoles that have this crazy technology that are gonna be handheld gaming devices. It's just too much. I would also say that these comments signal that these rumors that have been floating around about the next generation Xbox saying that it's going to be less powerful and cheaper than the PlayStation 6, probably not true. Like, if we're gonna see the largest technological leap between the Series X and whatever this next console is going to be, that technological leap would probably put it way above those projected specs. They also touched a little bit about Xbox's mobile gaming plans. Tom was like, yo, Phil, what's going on? Are we gonna get a cloud gaming app on iOS? I won't have to have this weird shortcut on my phone that's really just like taking me to my browser and then taking me to xbox.com/play. And Phil was basically like, nah, that is not happening because there's no way for us to monetize it. Because Apple is just savage like that. He says the Digital Markets Act doesn't go far enough to open it up. In fact, you might even say they go the opposite direction in some way, but they definitely don't go far enough to open up competition on the world's largest gaming platform. Tom Warren also brought up another interesting point. He brought up comments that Phil Spencer made during all this FTC, Activision, Blizzard craziness, where he testified under oath that Sony takes the money that they make off of Xbox published games like Ghostwire Tokyo, and then they turn around and try to buy exclusivity rights for other games and make the Xbox brand smaller. So Tom was like, yo man, you said that a couple of months ago, and yet you're shipping more games over to PlayStation 5. Why would you give them more ammunition to kill the Xbox brand or make it smaller, like you said? And it kind of seems like Phil was taken off guard by this question. He said, maybe this is why we're only doing 4, and he starts to laugh. If the net result is that other things are punitive to the Xbox platform and try to limit our growth, then we'll have to think more carefully about how we support those other platforms. So basically he's saying this could be a good move or it could be a bad move that, can ultimately be weaponized against us. Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. There are some things that Phil said that were very encouraging to me as an Xbox fan, and some that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Phil Spencer also reaffirmed Xbox's commitment to backwards compatibility and making sure that you'll be able to play the games that you're purchasing today on any future Xbox hardware. He said, when we've talked about the future hardware that we're going to build, compatibility and library support is just kind of fundamental for us when we think about what our plans are. So we're very, very committed to that. So that's good news. All of these games that I have codes for, that I bought digitally, I'll be able to play on the next Xbox. Awesome. That's not something that every company does. But the one thing that he didn't touch on, which we definitely need more clarification on, is if that applies to physical games. Will this new Xbox have a disk drive that anyone who bought a physical copy of Starfield or any other Xbox game will be able to pop in and play? Are there still going to be physical games? We know that Xbox shut down their physical games release division. There are rumors flying around about major retailers dropping Xbox discs entirely. So the jury is still out on the future of physical games. The one thing that rubbed me the wrong way in this interview was Phil Spencer's stance on whether or not exclusives sell hardware or drive hardware sales. This is not the only time where he's spoken on this. After Redfall launched, he appeared on an episode of the Kinda Funny Xcast where they interviewed him, and at the time he said something like, oh yeah, even if Starfield comes out and it's a masterpiece 10 out of 10, it's still not necessarily going to sell Xbox consoles. It's not going to drive hardware sales. And at the time, I was like, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I didn't dwell on it too much. But the way that he worded it this time, I don't know, it's just not sitting right with me. Especially his use of the word fictitious. He says, I know there's this fictitious world where people think that one exclusive game kind of kicks off the sales of a platform, but the industry just doesn't really work that way today. And that word, fictitious, it's just not, it'll leave a bad taste in my mouth. He's like, oh yeah, this fantasy world where people think that certain franchises, certain exclusive games drive console sales. It's just ridiculous. That's just not how it works. Now, to be fair, like I always say, I am just a guy with a camera and a modest YouTube following. I don't have access to the wealth of data and knowledge that the CEO of Xbox has regarding, player engagement, consumer behavior on the Xbox platform. But I know a thing or two about buying a video game console and the decisions that go into that. I've been doing it for a long time, and as long as I've had agency over which console that I'm going to buy with my money, exclusive first-party games have always played a factor in that decision. When I was a kid, I had an N64 and a Game Boy, so I could play Mario games and Pokemon games. That evolved into me owning a PlayStation 2, and then when the Xbox 360 came out, all of my friends were playing Halo 3 and Oblivion, games that you can only play on an Xbox 360. So guess what I bought? I bought myself a 360, played those games, and the rest is history. Exclusive games are why I'm an Xbox fan in the first place. Now, to be fair, that was a long time ago, 10, 15 years ago. Sure, a lot has changed since then, but even when buying my modern gaming consoles, first-party content is still a factor in my decision. I bought this guy for two reasons. One, so I can play any new Fire Emblem game that comes out, and two, so my wife can play Animal Crossing. Same thing with my PlayStation 5, which is right underneath that camera. I bought it this generation to catch up on franchises that I missed out on last gen, like God of War, like Spider-Man, like The Last of Us, like Horizon. If any of those franchises came out on Xbox, I wouldn't have bought them. I would have just bought an Xbox and called it a day. And I'm sure millions of people out there did the same thing. They saw that they could only play Spider-Man 2 on a PlayStation 5, so guess what? They went out and bought a PlayStation 5. And while yes, it would be way cooler if I didn't have to spend money on 3 different gaming consoles just to keep up with my favorite video game franchises, it would be much preferable to just buy one and play everything on the one. So I'm not opposed to a future where there's no exclusive games or everything is playable on PC or whatever, but it just feels like these comments from Phil Spencer are ignoring a fundamental part about console gaming culture. Phil Spencer is a cool guy. He's clearly one of the few video game executives that actually plays video games, but this is a rare moment or a rare stance of his that has me thinking it kind of feels like you're a little bit out of touch, especially when fans have been begging Xbox for good quality exclusives that will justify their purchase of an Xbox for years now, ever since the Xbox One generation. And while I do agree with Phil Spencer's statement about, in 5 to 10 years, there's not going to be a lot of exclusives, I do agree with that. That doesn't discount the power that exclusives have now. And it kind of seems like they know that too, because they're like, okay, we can't ship over Starfield or Indiana Jones, or else people are going to get pissed at us and jump ship. So let's just ship over these smaller games, these older games that have kind of reached their ceiling on the Xbox platform. Speaking of exclusives, Phil Spencer in a separate interview addressed the lack of Helldivers 2 on Xbox consoles. Now, if you haven't heard of this game, Helldivers 2 is basically Starship Troopers, the game. You go to planets, you kill these aliens, you kill bugs in the name of spreading democracy, in the name of expanding and defending Super Earth. It's pretty fun, but the queuing system and the multiplayer, the crashes, they're pretty friggin' annoying. Even though it's a breakout hit and the Sony president has come out and said, oh yeah, we want to do more launches like this, where we launch on PlayStation and on Steam the same day, it doesn't seem like that multi-platform strategy is extending to Xbox. Phil Spencer had this to say: I'm not exactly sure who it helps in the industry by not being on Xbox. If you try to twist yourself to say, somehow that benefited somebody somewhere. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because he doesn't seem to have a problem with canceling the PlayStation 5 version of Starfield and Indiana Jones, but he has a problem with Helldivers 2 not being on Xbox. And it's moments like these where it's he acknowledges the power of certain exclusives, but it clashes with the current Xbox ideology of we're gonna bring Xbox games to as many screens as possible. We hate it when games are exclusive. And he even says, but I get it, there's a legacy in console gaming that we're going to benefit by shipping games and not putting them on other places. We do the same thing. And it's this kind of back and forth of yes, we're gonna have certain games that are exclusive to the Xbox platform to get people to buy in and invest, but we're also gonna ship some other stuff to make a little bit of extra cash. part of me wishes they just went full throttle in one direction. Okay, they're going full third party, everything that they make is going to be shipped to other platforms, or all of their first party content is locked down and is exclusive. This back and forth, I get it, logically I understand, but it's also kind of like, man, I don't know, I'm kind of getting tired of the dance. Next up, let's wrap up the video talking about the coolest Xbox that you will never own. Dune Part 2 is partnering up with Xbox to make this sick special edition Series S. The Series S itself, I mean, it's pretty cool. It's got like this desert, sandy glow that you would find on the surface of Arrakis, and then it has the Dune logo. But it also comes with this mini ornithopter that you can put the Series S and load it into, and it's just so cool, man. I'm a big fan of Dune. So, you know, Dune and Xbox, it's a clashing of worlds that is really awesome to me. And it comes with this controller that floats, that literally floats. And on the floating stand is like another, what looks like a charging port that we've seen from these special Razer controllers. It's floating, guys. It's floating. Like, how cool is that? But unfortunately, like all of these sick Xboxes that they've been coming out with over the past couple of years, or many of them, you cannot buy this one. You gotta enter into a contest for your chance to win. You can go over to the, I think the Xbox Twitter accounts, Warner Brothers, and Dune accounts. And it's like, damn it, guys. Dang it, guys. If anyone from Xbox is watching this, I know sometimes y'all do. Please, I never ask for anything, but if you can send your boy Ray one of these, I will do a crazy unboxing of it. I'll unbox the shit out of that, man. But even if you don't win this console, there's still content that's being added into Microsoft Flight Simulator, where you'll literally get to fly around Arrakis in an ornithopter. If anyone's watching this and y'all win it, take a picture and send it to me, because this thing is cool and I want to see what it's like in a real physical space. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready, and I'll see you in the next video.